Deebo. What flashes in your mind when you hear this name? A 240-pound linebacker? Benches over 500 pounds? Runs like a tight end? And plays like he's out for revenge? Yes, we're talking about James Harrison, the most feared linebacker to ever step on a football field. And if you don't believe that, ask the quarterbacks he slammed, like Colt McCoy, who said he couldn't even remember the play after Harrison leveled him.
I would describe my play style as violent, because it's a violent game.
This isn't just a story about football. It's about rejection, rage, and a man who bent the league to his will. So stick around for more moments like this, raw and unfiltered, straight from the heart of the game. Because James Harrison didn't just play the game, he terrorized it. Before the fame, before the fines, before the fear, James Harrison was just another name on the cut list. Born in Akron, Ohio, same place as LeBron James, Harrison grew up in a tough neighborhood, youngest of 14 siblings. His dad drove chemical trucks. His mom didn't even want him to play football at first. It took James and his best friend David Walker to convince her, but she didn't know that once he put on the pads, he was a wrecking ball. He excelled as a running back as well as linebacker. He was fast, explosive, already built like a tank in high school. He played Little League Baseball in Scranton, Pennsylvania, where he stood out early and made the All-Star team by 1991. In high school, he wasn't just a football player, he was a full-blown athlete. He competed in track and field, throwing the shot put over 51 feet, clearing 6 feet in the high jump, and even sprinting in the 4x100 relay. Talent wasn't the problem, but discipline definitely was. 2 high schools, 2 suspensions, one for trying to fight a coach, another for obscene gestures after scoring 2 touchdowns. Oh, another thing, he once shot a BB gun at a defensive coach in the locker room. Yeah, that actually happened. He pleaded guilty, barely finished senior year. Just like that, the powerhouse football programs, Ohio State, Notre Dame, Nebraska, all gone. They pulled their scholarship offers. Nobody wanted to take a risk on the kid with a short fuse. He was always strong, but strength doesn't always mean acceptance. James Harrison didn't walk into college football with fanfare. No scholarship, no red carpet. He walked on at Kent State and had to sit out his freshman season in '98 because of academic issues. Same story, different setting, overlooked, doubted, and nearly invisible. But once he got on the field, he made sure nobody missed him again. In 1999, he started just 3 games and still led the team with 106 tackles and 13 tackles for loss. The guy was everywhere. He recovered fumbles, he picked off passes, he played like someone who didn't have a plan B. And in his final college game, fittingly, he went out like a monster. 12 tackles, 5 sacks, 1 forced fumble, and the final 2 sacks of that game? Back-to-back hits on a young quarterback named Ben Roethlisberger. Yeah, the same Big Ben who'd become his future teammate in Pittsburgh. James sealed a 24-20 win. It was personal, it was violent, it was vintage Harrison. By 2001, he was the most feared man in the Mid-American Conference. 98 tackles, 20 for loss, and a league-leading 15 sacks. First team All-MAC, but still no NFL team called. James Harrison went undrafted in 2002. Too short, they said, 6 feet tall, too light, just 240 pounds. He was stuck between 2 positions, linebacker and defensive end, and no team thought he could handle either. Still, a few gave him a shot. One of them was Pittsburgh. The Steelers signed him as an undrafted rookie. Just a camp body, really, nothing promised. But Harrison didn't give up. Not yet. Not even after the Steelers cut him once, then twice, then again, and again. He was in and out of the practice squad, called up, sent back down, released, and re-signed. James Ferrier, a veteran linebacker on the team, remembers it well. He was a knucklehead who didn't know the plays. We'd be in training camp and he'd just throw his hands up like, "Get me out of here." We thought this guy was crazy. Crazy maybe, but done? Never. Here's a fun fact. During this time, he used to wear number 93 that later gets to his famous 92. At one point, Harrison even joined the Baltimore Ravens in early 2004, only to be sent to NFL Europe. 5 starts with the Rhine Fire, 27 tackles, a few bruises, nothing glamorous. Then the Ravens cut him, again. That was the 4th time James Harrison got fired by an NFL team. He was ready to walk away, done with football. At 26, he seriously considered quitting the game for good. He started looking into truck driving like his father, even got his commercial license. Or maybe veterinary school, because he always loved animals. But fate had other plans. Back in Pittsburgh, linebacker Clark Haggans tore a muscle during a weightlifting session. The Steelers needed someone, anybody. So they called James Harrison for the 5th time.
This gonna be the last opportunity I'm gonna give myself.
This time, he stuck. He played mostly special teams at first, but when Joey Porter got ejected before a game against the Browns, James got the start. In his hometown, on the road, against Cleveland, he balled out. A few weeks later, he scooped up a fumble and rumbled in for his first career touchdown. The switch had finally flipped. Pittsburgh wasn't about to let him go again. 2005 rolled in. Harrison wasn't just surviving, he was contributing. He got his first big shot when Clark Haggans went down. In a game against the San Diego Chargers, he intercepted Drew Brees and returned it 25 yards, leaping right over LaDainian Tomlinson in the process. But that wasn't the only leap. Christmas Eve 2005, a drunk Browns fan ran onto the field. Harrison body slammed him, pinned him down, and waited for security to show up. That clip, it went viral. By season's end, Harrison had a ring. The Steelers won Super Bowl 40. He wasn't a star yet, but he had a team-high 3 special teams tackles in the big game. In 2007, things changed. Joey Porter was cut. Mike Tomlin took over. The Steelers gave him a shot at starting. People had doubts, but he crushed them. By mid-season, he was unstoppable. That year, he made his first Pro Bowl, 2nd team All-Pro. On November 5th, Monday Night Football, he had a monster night. 9 tackles, 3.5 sacks, 3 forced fumbles, 1 fumble recovery, 1 interception. He even blasted Ed Reed on a punt return and forced another turnover. Announcers nicknamed him Mr. Monday Night. By the end of the season, 8.5 sacks, 7 forced fumbles, 98 tackles. He was voted team MVP. People weren't just watching him now, they were scared of him. By 2008, Harrison wasn't just a starter, he was a problem for every offense in the NFL. That year, he completely exploded. 6 forced fumbles, 101 total tackles, 16 sacks. And oh yeah, he won the NFL Defensive Player of the Year, the first undrafted player in league history to ever do it. Week after week, Harrison was putting quarterbacks in panic mode. He wasn't just pressuring them, he was terrorizing them. And then came Super Bowl 43. A tight game, seconds before halftime. The Cardinals were 1 yard from the end zone, about to take the lead. Then, boom! James Harrison dropped into coverage, picked off Kurt Warner, and bulldozed his way 100 yards down the field for a touchdown. Dodging tackles, stiff-arming receivers, dragging half the Cardinals with him into the end zone. It was the longest defensive touch in Super Bowl history. But instead of celebrating, he just drops, flat on his back in the end zone, not moving. Coach T talks about this moment like,
"We got a touchdown. I go out there to check on him. I said, 'James, are you all right?' He said, 'I'm tired, boss.'"
Some say it's the greatest defensive play the game's ever seen. Others just call it pure chaos, Harrison style. That one moment summed up his whole career. Overlooked, doubted, then unforgettable. Some guys fall off after a breakout year. James Harrison, he turned into a full-on nightmare. In 2009, teams thought they had him figured out. Double teams, chip blocks, quick throws, none of it mattered. He still racked up 10 sacks, 5 forced fumbles, and 79 tackles. But James wasn't just rushing the passer anymore. He was doing everything, dropping into coverage, blowing up screens, chasing down backs. Complete linebacker, complete chaos. He made 4 straight Pro Bowls from 2007 to 2010. He didn't miss a beat. He started every game in 2009 and 2010, even while battling injuries. This was the era where the Steelers' defense was straight up violent. Troy Polamalu flying around, Lamar Woodley wrecking pockets, and James Harrison as the tip of the spear. He brought fear every Sunday. In 2010, he tied his career high with 100 total tackles and added 10.5 sacks. The Steelers had the #1 scoring defense in the league, and yes, they went back to the Super Bowl. Super Bowl 45. Harrison was all over the field, 5 solo tackles, 1 for loss. It wasn't enough to stop Aaron Rodgers and the Packers, but James left his mark, literally. Opposing players started publicly calling him dirty. The media called him reckless, but teammates, they called him the enforcer. In October 2010, James Harrison delivered a blow that became instantly infamous. He met Cleveland's Mohamed Massaquoi over the middle. The ball came loose, Massaquoi was down and never got up quickly. The NFL fined Harrison $75,000, later reduced to $50,000 as a repeat offender. Harrison later admitted he only used about 50% of what I had, saying he'd have hit him harder had he known the fine was coming. He even claimed Mike Tomlin slipped him an envelope after the hit. And Harrison didn't care what anyone said. In fact, in 2011, the NFL fined him $120,000 more than any other player for illegal hits. James called it modern football going soft. One hit on Colt McCoy left the Browns QB unconscious. Harrison barely blinked. He wasn't dirty, he was just old school. When the NFL tried to soften the game, he became the villain. He still trained like he was undrafted, still played like every snap could be his last, still carried that chip from 2002 like it just happened. This wasn't a hot streak, it was a warning. Harrison wasn't going anywhere. By 2012, James Harrison was 34, but don't get it twisted, he was still a savage. Just a banged up one. That season started with knee surgery. He missed the first 3 games, and even when he came back, he wasn't quite the same. Still explosive, still brutal, but you could tell something was off. He managed 6 sacks, 2 forced fumbles, and 70 tackles. Not bad for most linebackers. But for James Harrison, that was a slow year. The Steelers missed the playoffs. Age, injuries, salary cap, it all started adding up. And in 2013, Pittsburgh made a move that shocked the locker room. They released James Harrison. 10 years, 1 Defensive Player of the Year, a Super Bowl legend. Gone. Just like that. This is James Harrison we're talking about. He wasn't going to ride off into the sunset quietly. So guess what he did? He signed with the Bengals. Yup, the Cincinnati Bengals, Pittsburgh's most hated rival. And let's be real, this was weird. The city hated it. Steelers fans called him a traitor. Even James admitted it didn't feel right, but he wanted to play. He wanted to prove he still had it. For a while, he did. He played in 15 games, made 30 tackles, and even picked off a pass. But Cincy's system wasn't built for him. They ran a 4-3. James, he was born to rush from the edge, not cover tight ends in space. It just wasn't the same, and after 1 season, the Bengals let him go. Everyone thought that was it. End of the road. Linebacker at 35, cut by 2 teams. But nah, Harrison wasn't done. He just needed the right jersey again. And you already know what jersey that was. Steelers fans were still mad, not at James, but at the universe, because watching him in orange and black just felt wrong, like Batman joining the Joker. But in 2014, something clicked. The Steelers were struggling with injuries at linebacker. They needed help, veteran leadership, and fearlessness. And so they made the call, and James Harrison was back. At 36 years old, fresh off the couch, literally. He was in the middle of a retirement workout, doing squats in his garage when he got a call from Mike Tomlin, and he was ready to jump in again. No training camp, no preseason, just a helmet, a locker, and that familiar number 92 stitched back on. And the crazy part? He started wrecking people, again. In 2014, he had 5.5 sacks in just 11 games. Next year, he was still a rotational monster. 4 more sacks and 2 fumble recoveries at 37 years old. And let's not forget the leadership. He was mentoring young guys like Bud Dupree, barking orders from the sideline, setting the tone in the locker room. He was still bench pressing more than half the roster. Even in his late 30s, James Harrison was doing Harrison things, chasing down quarterbacks, flipping offensive linemen, and bullying anyone who looked too comfortable. He played all the way through 2016, helping the Steelers reach the AFC Championship that year. He led the team in sacks at age 38. Have you ever seen a 38-year-old linebacker lead a defense in sacks? That's not human. That's James Harrison. And just when you thought he was ready to retire for good, he had one more surprise left. Steelers fans still remember the headline like it was betrayal. James Harrison signs with the Patriots. Wait, what? The man who terrorized Tom Brady for years, now playing with him? Yep, that actually happened. Here's what went down. In 2017, Harrison's role with the Steelers shrank. New blood like TJ Watt had arrived. Harrison barely saw the field, just 40 total snaps by mid-season. He was frustrated, vocal, and restless. The Steelers released him in December, and just days later, boom, the New England Patriots swooped in. Fans were stunned. Players were pissed. Even Harrison admitted, "I didn't leave, they let me go." But Harrison wasn't there to sit around. He wanted revenge. He wanted snaps. He was a fire-breathing dragon. In his very first game with New England, Week 17 against the Jets, the old beast woke up again. 2 sacks, 5 tackles, and a forced fumble. Yeah, a 40-year-old, still folding quarterbacks like laundry. He helped lead the Patriots all the way to Super Bowl 52, playing in all 3 playoff games. He had a sack and 5 QB pressures in the AFC Championship. And in the Super Bowl, he was chasing Nick Foles till the final whistle. They didn't win that game, but James had made his point. You didn't retire me, I went out on my own. Shortly after the Super Bowl, Harrison announced his retirement for real this time. In his Instagram post saying, "I've missed way too much for way too long, I'm done." 16 years, 2 rings, NFL Defensive Player of the Year, most feared man on the field for over a decade. Even Tom Brady called him one of the hardest guys to play against. Ben Roethlisberger said,
"He's one of the most intimidating, scariest football players that I've ever been around."
But stats don't capture James Harrison. Not really. What captures him is this: a 6-foot undrafted linebacker, told he was too short, too heavy, too wild, cut 4 times, practiced on fields nobody remembers, then became a Super Bowl legend and Steelers' all-time sack leader. A man who bench pressed 500 pounds in his 40s, who flipped 1,400-pound tires on Instagram just because, who treated every play like a war zone. James Harrison wasn't supposed to make it. That's exactly why he did. So yeah, he may not be your traditional Hall of Famer, but if fear had a face in the NFL, it wore number 92. James Harrison didn't just walk away from the game. He left behind a seismic trail of bruises, broken plays, and broken narratives. And yet, he's now one of the most feared linebackers to ever play in the NFL. But even when the lights faded, Harrison stayed true to himself. He skipped not one, but both White House visits after his Super Bowl wins. First with President Bush, then with President Obama. Why? Because he believed champions shouldn't only get invited when they win. "Invite us when he lose," he said. "That means something." That's the mindset. No trophies for showing up. No fake handshakes for clout. You earn it or you don't. That's how he raised his kids too. When they got participation trophies, he gave them back. Earned the real one. But whether it was Sunday Night Football or a backyard game of catch with his boys, James Harrison gave you the real thing. Every single snap. Not bad for an undrafted linebacker from Akron, Ohio. So the next time someone asks you who the most intimidating linebacker of all time is, you already know the answer. One name: James freaking Harrison. The only undrafted player in the history of the NFL to be named NFL Defensive Player of the Year. Before we end this, here's another fun fact about him. Even after the cleats came off, James Harrison didn't exactly quiet down. He jumped into TV, appeared on the show SWAT, and even played Apocalypse on heels. Who do you think was scarier on the field, James Harrison or Ray Lewis? Drop your answer in the comments. And if this hit hard, like James did, tap that like button and subscribe for more football stories that go beyond the box score.